What is cracking, guys? Today I want to get straight to the point on really what you can do to boost your money, really how to become rich, how to become wealthy. By the way, I want to say I'm not a financial advisor. I have to kind of put that disclaimer. I can only really tell you what I know and what my experiences have been and what I feel like the best route to success can be. So if you follow it, good luck. By the way, I really need you to subscribe. I'm putting out some quality content here. I'd love the channel to grow, and I really just want to help you guys as much as possible. So comment below, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you find any value, watch this video. It's super, super informative. Step one, if you're not married, get married. It's amazing how much two incomes will do for your finances. What I really recommend is one of you saving your entire paycheck while the other person pays all the bills. That is the step one. If you don't have money saved, get some money saved, and that's a good way to do it. Now, I'm not saying get married just for money, but really, if you want to grow in life, if you're younger, find somebody obviously who matches your wants and desires and wants to grow, maybe is okay with buying businesses or having business ownership, has a little bit of risk tolerance, but is diligent like you are and budget conscious and is down to save money. So one of you, like I said, one of you pay all the bills, one of you save your entire paycheck. Okay, I'm gonna go downstairs because, I don't know, I feel like this is a basement conversation to have. Talks in the basement, that's gonna be my new channel name. So there's more than one way to skin the cat, but I feel like that's a really good way. In general, step one is to save money. Save money, save money, save money, because it's gonna cost some money to make some money in this scenario. So I don't care if it's going to get another job that makes more money, partnering up with somebody, moving in with the folks. Like, I don't care if you're 35 years old or 40 years old or 25 years old and you should be partying or whatever. You gotta enjoy life too, but whatever you gotta do to minimize your bills and save money, that is step one, because you're gonna need that money for step two, which is way better than starting a business. So here's step two. So step two is the best way to make money, in my opinion, the highest return on your investment. And I'm gonna outline some of the deals. I'm gonna outline a basic deal that's imaginary, and I'll probably outline some deals that I have done. So since you've saved some money, you've worked hard, you've either gotten another job that makes more money, you've minimized your bills, you've gotten married, whatever it may be, sell your house. If you got a 401k and you're working a 9-to-5 job, sell your 401k or borrow against it. Whatever you got to do to gather up money. People say buying a house is the first move to make. No, buying a business is the first move to make. And once I show you these numbers, you'll understand why. Okay, so here is an imaginary deal that you can either scale up or scale down according to how much money you have saved. And I'm gonna use this imaginary deal because it's a very easy deal to use. It's the $1 million price mark. So we're gonna go with that. Let's say a business is worth $1 million, which may sound out of reach when you're just starting. My very first deal was about $1.5 million, right around there, including all the fees and working capital. But let's just use the $1 million mark for a business price. At that $1 million business mark, the business should be profiting about $333,000, let's assume. Businesses are priced based upon how much they are profiting, not how much total revenue there is, but based upon how much they're profiting in general. Now there's some anomalies there when you get into CPA firms and stuff, but in general, businesses are priced based upon how much cash flow after expenses the business is making. So in $1 million company, you should have a company earning the owner after expenses about $333,000. So that would be a 3-time multiple. The value of the company is $1 million. So 333,000 times 3 is $1 million. That's a 3-time multiple at a business of that size. Okay, now can you find businesses cheaper making $330,000? Absolutely, you can. Can you find them a little more expensive? Sure. I don't know that I'd recommend paying more than a 3-time multiple on a business that's only making $330,000. But yeah, they're out there. You can find them. It depends on the sector. So let's assume you've got a business that's making $330,000. The sale price is $1 million. How much does it really cost you to buy that cash flow? Now, it's not going to cost you $1 million to buy $330,000 cash flow. In general, the bank SBA loans will cost you about a 10% down payment. 10%. That's $100,000 to buy a business that's generating cash flow of $330,000. That's a huge return on your investment. Now, it's not a 330% return on your investment, but I'll go through the numbers on what the actual percentage return on your investment is should you decide to put that $100,000 into buying a business versus putting that $100,000 into another investment like the stock market. Okay, so you got 100 grand. Now I get it. If you don't have 100 grand, again, you can take this example, scale it down, call it a $500,000 business, then you only need $50,000. But in this example, we're using $1 million business and you're gonna have to come up with $100,000 to buy it, okay? So you've got 100 grand and you're ready to make your first acquisition. Your down payment's gonna be 100 grand. The price of the business is $1 million. So you've put $100,000 down. Now that loan that you're gonna get isn't $1 million loan, it's a $900,000 loan, okay? So now you're gonna owe the bank $900,000. But wait, you're gonna need some working capital. You've got employees, you've got bills that you need to pay. And even though you're buying a business that's operating and cash flows coming in right away, there are gonna be some expenses that you need to pay, including SBA fees and bank fees. So even though it was $1 million company price, it went down to $900,000. You're gonna need $100,000 to pay fees, bank fees, and some working capital. So let's pretend now that the loan isn't $900,000, it's back up to that $1 million price, okay? So now you've gotta make a mortgage payment on $1 million for this company that is profiting $330,000. Okay, let's go through this in a calculator here. Here's your loan amount of $1 million. I'm gonna go ahead and put an interest rate of 6%, and then we're gonna calculate and see what your payments are. Your payments at 6% are $11,000, a little bit more than $11,000 per month. And as you can see here, it's not like a house where it's a 30-year loan. If we scroll down, it's only a 10-year loan, so it's 120 months. Okay, so it's 120 months. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. And here's the cool thing about it, is that a big chunk of your payment goes towards the principal, not the interest. So as you can see here, actually more of your payment goes to principal than it does interest. But when I'm doing my math, I'm very, very conservative. So, typically I'll calculate it about half of it goes to principal and the other half goes to interest. Here's why that's important. We want to calculate what the return on our investment is going to be from buying this company, right? We know that it's $1 million. We know that it's $330,000 cash flow. And we know that we've put $100,000 as a down payment on this business. Okay, so your payments are $11,000 a month. That means that on an annual basis, you're going to be paying the bank roughly $132,000 a year. Okay, so we take our $330,000 that the business was cash flowing and we subtract $132,000. Okay, that leaves us with approximately $200,000 left in cash flow. So right off the bat, without it going any further, you put $100,000 as a down payment. Now you're making $200,000 every year. So you've got a 200% return on your investment year one. It gets crazier when you look at your original investment and you add various years. Your return on your investment's astronomical. But let's just keep it for year one because it's gonna sound too good to be true, honestly. So let's just keep it year one, $100,000. Now you're making $200,000 on your $100,000 that you put down. That's a 200% return on your investment. But wait, there's more. If you remember, the loan to the bank was only a 10-year loan. So, okay, it's $132,000, right? Of that, we have a principal and interest payment. So what I do as a conservative way of calculating is I just take $132,000 and divide it by 2. Okay, and I just estimate that about half of my payment to the bank goes to interest and the other half goes to the equity of the business. So I'm making $200,000 a year. Half of the payments that I'm doing to the bank of $132,000, half of that $132,000 goes to interest. The other half goes into the equity of the company, meaning you now own an asset that is worth some money that you can resell, much like a house, right? Except you've got a lot more money going to the principal of that asset, meaning it's kind of like a little piggy bank. So $132,000 in debt is really like saving $66,000 every year. So you're making the $200,000 that you see that's tangible, that's cash, that you can go spend on whatever you want. And then you've got another $66,000 that's just kind of being tucked away in a piggy bank. But that's your money, it's your equity. So I like to calculate that in my return on my investment. So now I've put $100,000 as a down payment, but I'm actually making $266,000 on an annual basis. I mean, the return on your investment is insane. It's crazy when you look at the percentages. Now, you can scale that, like I said, to bigger businesses, which is kind of where I tend to play, or smaller businesses if you just don't have the capital and you want to get in somewhere and you want to buy a Subway sandwich shop that you know that you can go buy 10 more down the road once you saved enough money. But now you're starting to see how it can build wealth in a very, very short amount of time, especially if you buy a business that's scalable, meaning you can buy more of them and add them to your portfolio as you grow. So some outlines. My very first deal I got into was about $1.5 million. It was profiting, I want to say it was profiting in the mid $400,000 range. So it was, the real sale price was like 1.3 million. And then I had a lot of working capital that I needed to borrow because it was a seasonal business. So that increased my expense quite a bit. That brought my real price of the business up to around 1.5 million. And so, but it did really well. I did better with it. And then it was in a franchise system so that I can buy more of them as I went along. I ended up doing that. I ended up buying a handful more of these offices and ended up profiting combined about $1.2 million. So my next business was profiting closer to the $500,000, my next acquisition, closer to the $500,000 point. And so it was for sale for around 1.5 ish. And my total sale price, because it was again, a seasonal business and I had a little more expense on this one, my total sale price was closer to the 1.7, 1.8 million if I'm remembering properly. So still a little bit over that 3-time multiple. But the business itself, the sale price was around a 3-time multiple. And then I just had to incur extra expenses. So my all-in cost was a little more than a 3-time multiple. But it was worth it because in this scenario, I was getting the bulk of my return on my investment within months. I didn't have to wait a whole year to get my 260% return on my investment. Because it was seasonal, I really only had to wait about a half a year. And I got all my revenue for the whole year. So it was great. And then, of course, the rest of the summer, we would just stack some money away to pay the bills. But I still received, a 250 or so and higher percent return on my investment. So you can see how, from the very first acquisition, you can really grow to where you're now profiting over $1 million in a short span of time. This took us 3 years. After that acquisition, we made one more acquisition. That other acquisition that we made now was profiting $1 million, right around the $1 million price range. This was in a sector that it really has higher multiples, so we had to pay more money for it. We didn't just pay $3 million. The seller wasn't budging. It's a really, really hot market. So we paid $4.2 million for it. But even paying a 4.2 time multiple on this business, the return on our investment was still really, really good, and it still made sense for us. And now not only that, our cash flow is a lot more than what it was because we had all of this going on at the same time. So we had, our original acquisitions in the same sector. They were in tax and accounting, by the way, in a franchise. So we were not accountants, but we ran the company. We did the hiring. We did the, whatever need be. And there were managers in each store. We had about 40 something locations. So anybody can do it, right? What one person can do, another person can learn. So we're profiting 7 figures on that. We're buying another 7-figure profiting company, and we're rolling that into our portfolio. And then we just keep growing. The idea is to keep growing, right? So the math on the $4.2 million acquisition, my payments, if I remember properly, were right around $500,000 for my $1 million cash flow business, which was totally unrelated to our very first 2 acquisitions. So I put $500,000 as a down payment. It was $460,000 as a down payment. The company was profiting $1 million. I had to pay about $500,000 into debt services or into my mortgage payment on an annual basis. But about half of that is equity, right? So it was cash flowing $1 million. I put $460,000 down. I'm cash flowing now after my debt services $500,000, but another $250,000 goes into the equity each, like my piggy bank. So it's really $750,000 that I'm profiting. So let's calculate that return on our investment. Okay, we're gonna start this calculation by taking $750,000 and dividing it by our down payment. Okay, because $750,000 is the total money that comes to us between free cash flow and our equity and our debt service. So that gives us 163% return on our investment. Very simple math. Now I know I'm getting pretty personal with financials, but you can see at this point now where things they get spiraling out of control, because if you are a good business management person, and by the way, if you don't have experience, I don't recommend you buying a company. Go get some management experience, get some basic people, hiring, problem solving and business experience before you go out and make an acquisition. And that should be part of your journey in saving capital in order to go buy something. So how to make the most money? I mean, the internet is flooded with things that you can do, whether it be sales, or welding. There's a million ways you can make 6 figures just by applying yourself. So I really recommend going and looking at that. But after that, we've opened a mergers and acquisition firm. We've made some more acquisitions. We recently in December bought a CPA firm here in Colorado. And by the way, we've since sold those other companies, and since we bought them, those companies were actually doing better than when we bought them, right? So now they were worth more money than what we paid for them. So we made money along the way, the kind of money that we were talking about earlier. And all the while we were making that money, now the value of our businesses have sort of started creeping up. And so once we saw a dollar amount that we thought would be good to sell at, 2 things happened. One, we're selling it at a higher price than we paid for it, right? So there's profit there. We were profiting along the way while it was making money. And also the debt had kind of decreased as we're paying it off. So now we've got this asset that we can sell for a high dollar amount, and we can move on. We can retire. We can do whatever we want to do. We're way too young to retire, but so we're making some more acquisitions now. We've made an acquisition in December. We paid cash for it, a CPA firm. It's cash flowing very well. Once you get into the lower cash flows, not the $1 million cash flows, but the lower cash flows with the $1 million example I was talking about, you can pick up firms for less than a 3-time multiple. You can pick them up for like a 2-time multiple. So those numbers get even insane when you're looking at your ROI. So let's say, you have a $330,000 business that's profiting. You can probably find a business like that for sale for $660,000. I mean, you truly can find a $300,000 profiting business for around $600,000. You've got to really look at it and see if it's something you want to do and look for it. But you can find better ROIs than what I'm painting out in this video. But I'm very passionate about this. I truly believe that this is the way to become a CEO of a big company. It's almost like hitting the lottery. There's a lot of politics involved. You can be a real, producer without even going up the ranks in a corporation. But when you work for yourself, you take that control away from other people and you put it in your own ability to grow a company. I'm doing some work right now in some consulting with some people that want to do acquisitions. And so, these are people who are paid pretty well in corporate America. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, $250,000 range. And they see that. Sure, they could continue down that road and maybe make, down the road, maybe another 100,000, but they're capped. No matter what they do, they're stopping there. They don't see the route to making 1 million, 2 million, 5 million a year in profits. Whereas when you're building portfolios for a company, it's attainable. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. Is it attainable? Yes, it's attainable. You can work your tail off and do it. You can be smart. You can start spending your time learning about these things. And this is how you become a multi-millionaire. I hope this helps. I know I've spoken kind of fast. Rewind the parts that you didn't quite understand. Ask questions down below. I'm happy to help. But I'm continuing to grow. I'm continuing to buy companies. That's where I spend most of my money. But it's also how we can afford to live in a nice house and have a house in Florida, have a Lamborghini, an X7, anything we want, really. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I'm very passionate about what we do and what I do. And I know if you're watching this video, if the algorithms have found you, it's something that you can do too. Because that means you're thinking about it. That means you watch things that are business related. You can do it. Good luck. Subscribe. Good luck.